How are we doing, folks? Your host Moose here on the Pitt Panthers Football Network, and we come to you with our Season 6 Bowl Preview Show and our College Football Playoff Selection Sunday reveal. And you can see the Final Four has been set. Oklahoma at number 1 was pretty much locked in. Clemson and Ole Miss locked in at 2 and 3. The only question was who would be 2, who would be 3. In this case, Ole Miss gets the number 2 seed after their SEC championship victory. Clemson the 3 seed after the ACC championship victory. And incredibly enough, ACC second representative, Virginia Tech. The Virginia Tech Hokies get in over the likes of the USC Trojans, the Ohio State Buckeyes, and most notably, the Cincinnati Bearcats. The Bearcats undefeated on the season, champions of the American, but their resume just did not meet up with that of the 11-1 Virginia Tech Hokies. So many more ranked wins for the Hokies. Their ranked loss was very, very close. Cincinnati just only really had one marquee win. Virginia Tech had 3 or 4. They've also beaten another playoff team in Clemson. Virginia Tech has beaten Clemson, so it was hard to leave the Hokies out, especially when they beat Clemson by 20 points. And so they'll be in the Cotton Bowl taking on number 1 Oklahoma. Clemson will be in the Orange Bowl taking on Ole Miss. And if we look at the Virginia Tech-Oklahoma game, I mean, the Hokies are fantastic. Number 5 scoring offense, number 5 total defense. Oklahoma, number 4 scoring offense, number 2 in terms of yardage, and number 3 total defense. Teams very similar in terms of turnover differential. The big thing that's going to be a question is, can Travis Huff do it all himself? I mean, he's been almost a one-man show for Virginia Tech this season. He runs the ball. He's second on their team in rushing yards. Of course, he was a Heisman finalist with an incredible season, 36 touchdowns against just 3 interceptions. He's been absolutely fantastic. He's got Ryan Winston as his number 1 receiver, who's definitely going to go to the NFL next year. A great team. Can they put it together and shock Oklahoma, who's been led by true sophomore Taylor Savage? Number 1 recruit from 2 seasons ago. Freshman, he played sparingly, won the job in the bowl game last year, and now he gets back to bowl week this year with a chance to lead his team to the national championship game. Deontay Washington, their running back, very solid. Brock Jones, their number 1 receiver, is a big play threat. But they spread the ball around. You can see Jones only averaging 64 yards a game, and Taylor Savage has thrown for over 3,200 yards. So he clearly moves the ball around really well. I think that distribution is really going to help Oklahoma. I like them in this game, but I think Virginia Tech at least makes it interesting. Clemson against Ole Miss, this is a definition of a toss-up. Clemson is probably the better team overall, but Ole Miss has the best player in the country in Heisman winner Dustin Young. Number 1 total offense in the country, number 1 scoring offense in the country. Their defense is okay. They give up a lot of rushing yards, but Clemson has proven to be more of a passing offense, and Ole Miss's passing defense is actually pretty decent. Will Alford's been very good for Clemson, the sophomore quarterback, and he's a redshirt sophomore. 27 TDs against just 4 INTs. He's got a ton of passing yards. You can see 3,600 yards, which is very impressive. Passed for almost 400 yards, 4 TDs in the ACC championship game. Anthony Riggs at halfback is solid, 1,100 yards and 12 touchdowns. John Phillips at receiver is a really good player, 888 yards on the season. They also got Ian Evans as well. So some really good receivers there for Clemson. But Ole Miss, number 1, they have one of the best receivers in the country in Pravon Dean. They have the number 1 tight end in the country in Jared Bowie, 81 receptions, 1,342 yards, 12 touchdowns. The guy's an absolute freak. And then they have Dustin Young. What more needs to be said? The guy's the Heisman winner. 36 touchdowns. He's got a ton of rushing yards as well on the season. He's been absolutely incredible. It's a toss-up. I think Ole Miss wins because of Dustin Young, but I think it'll be a very, very good game in this regard. Now, the remainder of the New Year's 6 bowls to be divvied out. Florida, the SEC runner-up, will be taking on Texas in the Sugar Bowl. That's going to be a great matchup. A little SEC Big 12 action. Should be a really fun game. Clint Franklin going to lead the Florida offensive attack against the Longhorns, who their question mark is who's going to play at quarterback, Brian Kelly or freshman Giovanni Perry. Should be a great decision there. Washington taking on UNC in the Fiesta Bowl. Of course, UNC ACC runner-up, lost in the championship game to Clemson. Washington Pac-12 runner-up. 2 really good teams. I think Washington's probably the better team, but UNC again has the more explosive player in quarterback Zach Anderson. He's the real difference maker that if he goes off, UNC could win this game. Otherwise, I like Washington overall. Another really great matchup, Rose Bowl, you got your Big Ten Pac-12 annual contest, and it's Ohio State against USC, two programs with storied traditions. And they're both playing really, really well at this moment in time. Ohio State is on fire right now. D.D. Harris at quarterback has been really good lately. And I don't know if there's anybody, even the Heisman winner, hotter in the country right now than Taylor Coleman, the USC quarterback. He's been incredible, led them down the stretch to 4 ranked wins in a row and a Pac-12 championship. I think the Trojans could come away with the victory in this one. And then finally, the Peach Bowl is where we'll see undefeated Cincinnati. And they may not be playing for the national championship, but they'll be playing for an opportunity to earn national respect and maybe claim their own national championship, taking on last year's national champion, Alabama, and their two-pronged rushing attack, Brian Hand, Darion Williams Jr., both going to go head-to-head against Andre Cantrell, the Cincinnati running back, Steve Williams, the senior transfer from Syracuse that leads Cincinnati at quarterback. Two fantastic defenses, two teams that love to run the football in this game, so it could be a very low-scoring, quick game the way these two teams like to play. Number 2 defense for Cincinnati, number 3 scoring offense, but it's because they like to run the ball. Alabama, also fantastic defense, great rushing offense. It's going to be a fantastic showdown between those teams. So as we take a look at the rest of the bowl games, of course, you can take a look, see if your favorite team is anywhere. Boise State, 7-5, playing in the New Mexico Bowl. Navy's in the Beef O'Brady's Bowl. This will be the last season in our dynasty that you may see one of these bowl games, because we will have a revamped update to the dynasty next year, which means some of these bowl games may get a facelift and may become their current iteration. So, for example, the bowl your Pitt Panthers are in, the Russell Athletic Bowl against Georgia, is actually now the Cheez-Its Bowl. So it's the last year for the Russell Athletic Bowl, where you'll see your Pitt Panthers taking on the Georgia Bulldogs. That's going to be a fantastic matchup. Really excited to see how that one plays out, just because it's a marquee opponent, to be honest. It's a really great bowl game. We haven't played Georgia since 1982, so it'll be a great matchup for us. Kansas State against Stanford is going to be a really fun bowl game. Both of those teams very solid. They'll be facing off in the Alamo Bowl. Mississippi State versus Florida State in the Music City Bowl is going to be a really good game. The Bulldogs have been good this season, but Florida State, as per usual, with a lot of talent and just not putting it together. So we'll see how they do in their bowl game. Sun Bowl, though. Upstart Syracuse taking on UCLA, who's had a bit of a down season. Of course, UCLA is always in the Pac-12 championship mix. This year they struggled a little bit, 8-4 on the season. Of course, a loss to your Pitt Panthers as well. And Syracuse will be their opponent. Syracuse has been fantastic. Cornell Washington at quarterback has been really, really good for the Orange, and I like what they can potentially do here this season. LSU Penn State in I forget which bowl game it is. We'll see it in just a second. It's going to be a great game. Calicolio leads the LSU offense. The Gator Bowl will be a great matchup. Penn State, same thing. LSU and Penn State both with a lot of talent, but down years from their standards for the way they've played in this dynasty. Tennessee, another really good year. They've been one of the big surprises of this dynasty file. You thought maybe they'd even have a chance at the college football playoff. Instead, they lose to Kentucky in their final game. Now they're going to take on a very tough Michigan team led by Steve Tate at quarterback, one of the best passers in the country, and Miles Bigsby at halfback, the true freshman who's been incredible this season. I like Michigan in this one because they're playing good football at this moment in time. Of course, you got your New Year's Six Bowls. Another interesting bowl will be the Compass Bowl. USF coming off a loss to Cincinnati, taking on a Baylor team that made the Big 12 championship game and gave Oklahoma a run for their money. Should be a fantastic matchup there. So a lot of really fun matchups to take a look at in bowl week. And for your Pitt Panthers, they're taking on the 8-4, number 21 ranked Georgia Bulldogs in the Russell Athletic Bowl down in Orlando. So a really interesting matchup because Georgia's one of those teams that they got a lot of talent, especially on the offensive side of the football. They have two really good youngsters, Carter Ford, the sophomore quarterback, A.J. Jackson Stroud, the freshman running back, who are both very highly touted players, fantastic talents. And then, of course, beyond them, they have one of the best receivers in the country, a guy who could go toe-to-toe with Jay Keys and Travis Morris. They have a halfback in Stewart, who's also fantastic. I really like what Georgia has on the offensive side of the ball. There's definitely some questions about their defense, but they've played better than their ratings this year. Number 27 defense in the country. Their offense has been okay. The big question mark for both of these teams, their turnover differentials are both horrific. So whoever protects the football the best in this game, I think is going to come away with the victory. Carter Ford, you can see his stats a little bit lackluster. That's because he was injured for about 6 games this season, so he's only played in about half of Georgia's games. 17 TDs against 6 INTs, and he can run the football when needed. So I like what Carter Ford can do, and I think he's definitely a guy to watch because even though the stats are underwhelming, I think he can really sling the football around. Travis Morris, their number 1 receiver, one of the best receivers in the country. This guy's going to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft. He's fantastic, and he's a guy we'll need to watch out for and key in on defensively. CJ Kirk, his big key is, can he protect the football? 18 INTs on the season, a few fumbles as well. If Kirk can protect the ball, this Pitt offense can put up points. There is no doubt about that. The Pitt offense has shown they can score. They have explosive playmakers. Kirk being able to move with his feet, throw the ball. Davion Reynolds, the true freshman, we know all about him. Jay Keys can make big plays in the receiving game, and the Panthers have some speed guys there as well. Paul Lease, Benjamin Ogden, KJ Welsh. The Pitt offense is loaded with playmakers. A Georgia defense that's maybe a little maligned this season. I think Pitt could do some work on them. And the Georgia trajectory of their season has been very interesting. They started off with a 49-28 blowout of Alabama. And then they blew out South Carolina, who didn't have a great season, but still 2 blowout victories to start the year. You thought, holy smokes, this Georgia team's for real. And then they get destroyed by LSU. That's where they lost Carter Ford to injury in that game. That hurt them. They also lost their backup quarterback, Mark Bush, to injury in that game as well, which meant they end up having to start a tight end, Keith Williams, at quarterback because he's their emergency quarterback for like 4 or 5 games. He led them to a victory over Georgia State, helped them beat Missouri. I think he won Player of the Week that week for the Missouri game. Lost to Tennessee, though. Carter Ford came back to play against Vandy, got a victory. He missed the next game against Florida. They got blown out, and then Carter Ford comes back. They beat UAB. He plays where they lose to Virginia Tech, and then he leads them to 2 straight victories against Kentucky and Georgia Tech. So their team has been so up and down, and really it's down to their quarterback play. I think if Carter Ford makes it through the whole season, there's an opportunity that Georgia goes 10-2 or something of that nature and is in a much more significant bowl game than the Russell Athletic Bowl against your Pitt Panthers. And when you look at their roster, it's interesting. They have some top-level talents. They have 2 90-plus rated quarterbacks in redshirt senior Mark Bush, who's never been a starter, and then Carter Ford, the true sophomore, who last year he played about half the season because he took the starting job over midway through the season. And then this year, he missed some time with injury. He's a very good player, though. He can make things happen. Good arm, good power. He can run as well. He's got decent speed. He's a very, very good player, and I think he's going to do fantastic things for Georgia here, as long as he can stay healthy throughout his career. He's had struggles with that so far. If he can put together a healthy junior season, he could be a guy that could be in the Heisman race, to be perfectly honest. Keith Williams, like we mentioned, is the tight end who played quarterback, and he didn't put up terrible numbers. I mean, for a guy that's not a quarterback, hasn't played quarterback since high school, 5 touchdowns, 8 INTs. It's not terrible. You know, he could be worse. We can't even see his passing stats on there, of course, which is hilarious, but he did enough that the team needed to lead them to a couple of victories. They stayed in some games, but Carter Ford is the guy that can make this offense tick. Now, he's got Tyler Stewart at halfback. Fantastic player, the Hawaii native from Kapolei, Hawaii. Fantastic player, really, really solid talent. I like him to go to the next level for sure. I think he's a really good player, but the guy to watch out for if he gets some playing time is A.J. Jackson Stroud. True freshman, big body, has some speed, can make a lot of plays happen. He's been really, really good for them this season. Stewart just hasn't got the ball enough, in my opinion. He's close to 1,000 yards, but he's a guy with some real physical talent that can make a lot of stuff happen. Now, nobody on their team has more physical talent than Travis Morris. What's underwhelming for him is he's never had a real solid quarterback through the last 3 seasons of his career. So only 120 catches in 3 seasons of game time for the Ocala, Florida native. But he's a speedster. He's fantastic overall. He catches the ball really, really well. That's a guy with a skill set to play in the NFL, and he most certainly will do. They have a good team. They have some decent receivers, but Morris is far and away their best player, so we're going to look to shut him down in this game and make them beat us with some other options. Keith Williams as well, redshirt junior tight end. 88 overall. He's a very good player, and of course, backup quarterback on his duties as well. Now, when you look at this Georgia team offensive line, decent, mid-80s to low 80s. A lot of freshmen, though, so that means that's going to bode well for them moving forward with the growth that these guys are going to experience. At defensive end, Justin Wheeler and Joe Fleming, not great, and this is where I said they do have some question marks about their defense. They don't have a great defensive line. Martell Stuckey, the junior, is very solid, but otherwise they don't have a ton of great defensive linemen. What that means, I think, for us is we can hopefully protect CJ Kirk in this game. If we can protect CJ Kirk and give him time to throw, that always limits his propensity for turnovers. It's when he's moving around, when he's trying to force things because he's under duress and things like that he ends up making mistakes. I think if we can limit those opportunities, be able to protect him as best as we can, that's really going to help the Panthers out in this regard. So I think CJ Kirk is going to have a nice game as long as we can protect him. The guy to keep away, though, Jason Baker. Almost 100 tackles on the season this year, 10 sacks in his career, 4 INTs, 22 pass deflections. The guy is all over the field. Great speed for an outside linebacker. One of the best players in the country. Pottsville, PA, so he's actually an Eastern PA native, but he is a stud for this Georgia defense. He's their top player. One area where we can beat them, though, again, if we can protect CJ Kirk, they have great linebackers. Their corners aren't very good. If we can protect CJ Kirk, I think we can take advantage of the guys on the outside. The safeties are good. Centarius Scott loves to play in the box. He's a hard hitter. He likes to get after the football. Terry McIntyre's a good coverage free safety, stay back. But I think Centarius Scott's a game breaker to watch out for because he loves to get in the box, get after the football. Because he's rated so well, they use him in the nickel packages and things like that where he can make an impact. Even if he's not playing in a safety role or on the outside, he can play pretty much anywhere else for them. So I think this Georgia matchup is going to be really, really fun. I'm looking forward to this one. It's cool to play a team with so much prestige, and I think that's going to make for a great bowl game. It's going to be really exciting. So with that said, guys, let me know in the comments who wins the matchup, Pitt versus Georgia. What's the final score? And also, who do you have as your national champion? You got Ole Miss, Clemson, and you have Oklahoma, Virginia Tech. Who wins those two semifinal games, and then who wins the national championship? Because that's when we'll see our updates. We'll get your Pitt-Georgia game in the next video, and then your national championship game recap will be the video following that. So let me know who you have winning. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hail to Pitt. We'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.